Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of AB in the Films. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this one. I did not see it last night when it first premiered on HBO, but I watched it today, just now actually, and I gotta say, this is a really, really funny movie. You know? Well, first of all, let me go into a little bit of detail about this. Number one, I am a huge fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Let me just say that. But this movie has nothing to do with Curb Your Enthusiasm. All right, I should make that very clear, because when you watch the trailer for this movie, like, the only thing this movie is missing is Jeff Garlin, Cheryl Hines, and Susie Essman. If the three of them were in this movie, it would be Curb the movie, okay? Because J.B. Smoove is in this. Larry David is the star. And this movie was written by Alec Berg, Larry David, and, you know, Jeff Schaffer, and some of the other writers. I mean, the writers who do Curb Your Enthusiasm wrote this movie, okay? So here's the deal. I saw the trailer for this movie a couple of months ago, and I was looking forward to seeing it. The trailer, in my opinion, didn't really get my attention. I mean, I saw the trailer for this and I thought, oh, this doesn't look like it's going to be that funny. I mean, Larry David's in it. It could be kind of funny. It kind of looks like Curb Your Enthusiasm. And, you know, I mean, Greg Mottola directed this. This is the guy who directed Superbad, Danny McBride, Bill Hader, Lenny Clark, Michael Keaton. You know, there's a lot of John Hamm, a lot of talents in this movie. But it doesn't look like it could be that funny. So a few hours ago, I saw it on HBO On Demand, and I clicked it and watched it, and I thought, all right, let me give it a shot. And this movie not only has a really good setup. Here's my only criticism about this film. Clear History. I haven't said the title of the film yet in this review. Let me basically tell you about this movie, about the setup. Back to the criticism. The only criticism I have with this movie is that it seemed a little bit slow. I didn't start really, it's not a laugh-out-loud comedy until the second act. The second and third act, it's laugh-out-loud comedy. It's funny, it's really, really good, and you wonder what's going to happen next. The first act, you know, I understand it's exposition, it's setting up the movie and everything for what we're going to see later. I understand it. But not a lot of really good jokes. And throughout the movie, you know, there are things that Larry David does in this film that almost makes you feel like you're watching a film version of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like, there's a lot of times in the movie where he will politely approach a subject that not everybody looks at. Like, if you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, you know what I'm talking about. These little things that not a lot of people look into. Only Larry has a problem with stuff like that. There's a lot of scenes like that in this movie. So let me tell you what this movie's about, because this is an interesting idea for a comedy. I never really heard of a film that went like this. Larry David plays this guy, Nathan, and he is I think he's the guy who invests. I forget really. I think he's the guy in charge of marketing, and he works for this car company, and John Hamm is his boss, and John Hamm proposes this idea to release an electric car called the Howard. Well, it turns out Larry David, see, I'm already calling him Larry, see, you're going to call him Larry David, because he's just doing, I don't want to hurt Larry David on this, because I think Larry David's admitted this already, he's not an actor. You just see him as Larry David. I can't see him as this character. I just see him as who he is. And so John Hamm, his boss, is proposing this idea to release this electric car, but it turns out, and it's $1 billion idea and everything, Larry has a problem with it. He doesn't like the name of the car, and they're calling it the Howard, and he throws a big fit about that in this you know, at the business meeting. So John Hamm says to him, he says, do you want to buy back your share if you don't like this name? And Larry David says, okay, I will. So he buys back his share, and he leaves the company. turns out the Howard, which is this electric car, is $1 billion idea. Everybody got money off of it except Larry David. So Larry really screwed up big time here. And this leads to his wife leaving him. And, you know, he's become a laughingstock. He can't show his face, you know, at all. And he ends up leaving his town, and he changes his name, and he moves over to the island of Martha's Vineyard. He moves from California to Martha's Vineyard, where the movie, in my opinion, gets really good. This is when it starts to get good, because the first act is this. So then we jump ahead 10 years later to the present era, because the first act takes place in 2003. And, you know, I have a brief criticism. Like, this is truly geek mode for me. There's a scene in the movie, when all the tabloids are chasing after him and everything, saying, oh, this guy, you know, Nathan, whatever his last name was, he really got screwed out of a big deal here. He really made a big mistake. There's a scene where Conan O'Brien is talking on his show, and he's talking about how, you know, Larry David screwed up on this. This is truly geek mode, but this is who I am. I'm a nerd about this. This takes place in 2003, this part of the movie, right? Well, why does Conan look like he's on the TBS show? He was on the late night show at that point. Don't you think they should try to get the late night set there or make it look like that? I don't know. It's just a little tiny problem there. You know, it's nothing big, but, you know, that's me. So anyway, we cut ahead to 10 years later, and he's under a new name, and he shaved his beard. I should make that clear. He had a beard. He didn't look like he doesn't look like Larry David in the first half of the movie. He doesn't look like himself. And he becomes friends with Danny McBride and everything, and he plays poker with these friends of his, with Lenny Clark. I can't believe Lenny Clark's in this movie. Lenny Clark is so funny in this. And so anyway, he runs into his boss 10 years later. John Hamm runs in. And I forget how it comes up, but somehow Larry is really pissed off about this guy. He doesn't want to he doesn't want to run into this guy at all, this, because, you know, he doesn't want to see him anymore. But then something happens that makes Larry want to go up to him and say, you know, I want my money back. You know, it was $1 billion idea. And that's when he basically, you know, gets the idea to blow up his house. Larry David is going to end up blowing up John Hamm's $1 billion house with the help of Michael Keaton and Bill Hader. So I'm thinking, okay, this should be interesting. Let's see where this is going to go. I didn't think this would happen. And John Hamm also happens to be married to Kate Hudson, who still looks so hot after all these years. And Larry has a better idea. He says to Danny McBride and Michael Keaton and Bill Hader, he says to them, he goes, you know what, I got a better idea. Instead of just burning down the guy's house or blowing it up or whatever, I'm going to steal his wife, because he gets an impulse that apparently John Hamm's wife is hitting on him. And he goes, I'm going to steal his wife, marry her, and take half his money, and then we blow up his house. But apparently that doesn't go over so well. That doesn't work out, so they decide to just blow up the house. And, you know, the rest of the movie I do not want to give away. I don't want to give away the ending of this film. I do not. But you know, the way this movie is written, because the writers who write Curb Your Enthusiasm wrote this, the way this movie is written, this would have been a perfect film for Curb Your Enthusiasm. All it's missing is Jeff, Cheryl, and Susie. Because, you know, there are scenes between J.B. Smoove and Larry David, and I keep thinking Larry's arguing with Leon. I keep thinking that, even though they're not playing those characters. But I really, really enjoyed this movie for what it was. It's not the funniest comedy ever, but it had a lot of good moments. Like, I started to really laugh my ass off during this. it's a little slow at first, but give it some time, because you might end up liking this movie. Even if you're not a fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm or Larry David or Seinfeld, you still might like this movie. There are a lot of good moments in this, but the one flaw with it, I keep thinking I'm watching a film version of Curb. But you know what? Maybe I'm supposed to feel like that, because almost every scene, Larry David is just playing Larry David. He's not really playing this character, you know, in a way. I mean, there's no real depth to his character, aside from the fact from what he looks like in the first 20, 25 minutes of the movie. And that's facial features, you know. So yeah, and Philip Baker Hall is in this as we all know from as Bookman from Seinfeld. He's in this. Yeah, I really did enjoy this movie. It's called Clear History. In my opinion, is a really good movie. Now, here's the thing: if you don't have HBO, get HBO just for the month and check this movie out, because it's definitely worth the time. It is. I enjoyed it. I'm making this episode for AB in the Film so I can tell you guys about it. So, you know, if you haven't seen it yet, or if you've probably never heard of it, because I know a lot of people don't have HBO, check this out. It's a really, really funny movie. So yeah, that's my thought on Clear History, and I will see you guys in the next review. See you later.